Can you smell what the Volk is cooking? Listen, man, UFC 333 is absolutely loaded. This is hands down, on paper, one of the best cards of 2026 going down October 24th in Abu Dhabi. Now, we're watching UFC 330, right? We kind of were hearing those rumblings and rumors throughout the MMA world and MMA community talking about Volk versus Evloev being on this card and then Jan versus Dvalishvili being on the same card. And that ends up being the case. This card is absolutely loaded, man. And I like when the UFC announces some big fights during the broadcast, especially, on a big pay-per-view, numbered card, right? For UFC 330. And we were kind of expecting these fights to a degree, right? We were kind of hearing that this is the direction the UFC was going to go, but a lot of these fights, I didn't hear anything about. I mean, Lonnie Kavanaugh versus Ramazan Tamirov, that fight is absolutely bananas, man. Volkov versus Kuniev, great heavyweight fight. Arnold Allen versus Aaron Pico, that might be my favorite fight on the entire card. I mean, Arnold Allen, he is one of the most talented guys at 145 pounds that I've been saying is almost like a step below the champion, but good enough to beat dang near everybody else, taking on one of the nastiest boxers in the sport in Aaron Pico, who put on a clinic against Patricio Pitbull. You got Reyes versus Mirzakhanov, Abus Magomedov, one round Abus versus Cam Ralston, a fun up-and-coming prospect. Nikita Krylov, the ghost of Krylov's past at this point, versus Abdul Rahman Yakiayev, who's an absolute terrifying dude to deal with. And then you got Grant Dawson versus Rollo Aliev. This is a great fight, a great card on paper so far. So what I want to do, give some early predictions for this. We're going to talk about what I think the Volk man is cooking coming into his, a title defense against Movsar Evloev here. What I think of the trilogy between Petr, Jan, and Merab Dvalishvili. And then we got an Apex banger that was also announced that the UFC had let us know about. And I think we already knew about this fight before. I remember seeing this somewhere, or at least a rumor that this was going to be happening. And this is a great stylistic matchup. But as a main event, I mean, kind of crazy, right? Kind of the new, the way the UFC likes to rock with the Apex. You got the young buck versus the crafty old vet. And you got to see if the young buck can get through him. So great matchup, number 12 versus number 13. But for a main event, I don't know, a little bit surprised. So let me give kind of my thoughts on this card overall. I mean, loaded, stacked, amazing matchups, and important fights all across the board. And what I love about the main event is we actually have the number one contender in Movsar Evloev, who has been very impressive since coming into the UFC. And now he finally gets to fight Volkanovski for the featherweight title. Evloev earned the title shot. He should have fought for the belt a while ago, in my opinion. But one of the big reasons that I like this fight is, yes, Movsar has earned the title fight, but this is what Alexander Volkanovski deserves. He deserves to go in here against an undefeated fighter. He deserves to go in here against a true number one contender and add to his already incredible legacy. That's what I love about this fight. We got best on best in the weight class. Well, actually, I don't think Movsar Evloev is the second best featherweight behind Volkanovski, in my honest opinion. So maybe a hot take, but listen, I like Evloev, but I gotta call it like I see it, man. I don't think Movsar Evloev is the next best guy in this division. Now, we all know MMA math, styles make fights. We'll talk about it in a minute, but great matchup. Best, the number one guy versus the champion. Evloev has earned the shot, and then Volkanovski getting to go out here and take Evloev's what that would mean for his legacy. Volk has absolutely deserved an opportunity like this instead of giving him these pointless rematches with guys he's already beaten. So I'm happy that that's going down. And then Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. Would I have loved to have seen Jan versus O'Malley again in a 5-round fight? Of course. There's other matchups that I think are more intriguing in terms of Jan versus another high-level striker, but you have to give Merab the immediate rematch. Like, I'm not the biggest Merab fan in the world, but you have to respect what he brings to the table. And Merab was daring to do what no one else has really done in defending the belt, trying to defend it numerous times in a year. What did he fight, like 4 times in a year? I mean, that's incredible, the activity that Merab was putting out. And, putting yourself out there, camp after camp after camp, basically in camp all year long, taking on the next best guy essentially in the weight class after beating Umar Nurmagomedov, which was very impressive. And then it felt like Merab just started to snowball, was finding answers for some different puzzles in the weight class. He absolutely deserves this rematch. They're one apiece. Merab dominated him the first time. The second time around, I thought Jan pretty much dominated Merab. So I think the trilogy will be very interesting. They've been in there with each other already. Excited to see how that one plays out. And then Kavanaugh versus Tamirov is bananas, man. Absolutely bananas. An early lean, I think Lonnie Kavanaugh can knock out Ramazan Tamirov. I know Tamirov is coming off of a KO victory over Steve Erceg. I think Kavanaugh knocks out Erceg. And I know that Kavanaugh just got submitted by Brandon Royval. The problem with Kavanaugh is his gas tank. And especially as the fight starts to play out, he starts to fall apart. We saw it against Charles Johnson. We saw it most recently against Brandon Royval, but that's what Royval is able to do, right? Tricky southpaw, can get in your face, and he's very crafty. Tamirov just goes bombs away, throwing these big winging punches where he leaves all these openings. And of course, if he lands clean, he can knock anybody out in this division because he's got ridiculous power, for 125. But Kavanaugh is a much more technical fighter, much more technical. And I don't think Tamirov can out-grapple him. I don't think Kavanaugh is going to out-grapple him. I think you got the brute power and explosiveness of Tamirov, where it's one of those things where Kavanaugh can be winning until he's not, and then he just gets clipped. But I think Kavanaugh will chip away at him, man. Don't forget about that performance against Brandon Moreno. And he looked good against Royval, hurt Royval bad. And I got questions about Tamirov. I think he's very fun. I've been picking him to win these fights, but I've been very high on Kavanaugh, and I think Lonnie is much sharper on the feet and can take advantage of a lot of the holes that I think are there with Tamirov, at least on the defensive side of things. And then Alexander Volkov versus Rizvan Kuniev. This is an interesting heavyweight fight, man. Because Kuniev's looked really good. I thought he beat Blades, right? That was a split decision that went in Blades' direction. I thought Kuniev won, but either way, it is what it is. Was able to beat Jay Alton Almeida. We picked him. He was a big underdog in that fight, I believe, right? Got the job done there, stuffed the takedowns of Almeida, and then going out there and beating up Tyrell Fortune and getting the stoppage. Kuniev has a granite chin at heavyweight, which, not the best thing to rely on your chin at heavyweight, right? But Kuniev's he kind of looks like a blob, but he's not. He moves well, can jump around in there. He's very good in the clinch, which I think is interesting in this fight because I don't think he's going to out-clinch Volkov, right? I don't think Kuniev's going to be able to take down Volkov, so it's kind of the range of Volkov versus the inside clinch game of Rizvan Kuniev. So early lean, I think Volkov wins this fight. I think Volkov can get it done on the scorecards in a competitive one. I just feel like Kuniev's boxing is slow. It's sluggish. It's kind of sloppy. He doesn't really have power in his hands. I know he's a big guy, but he doesn't really sit on his punches very well. And we saw Fortune landing the right hand over and over and over again, man. And I think Volkov is he's a step above, way above a guy like Fortune. The front kicks up the middle, the high-level striking, can switch stances, can keep you at range. And if you can go out there and beat Waldo, and then I don't see why you couldn't go out there and outscore a guy like Rizvan Kuniev, right? So, I think Volkov wins. And then Arnold Allen versus Aaron Pico is an amazing fight. You got Arnold Allen, who looked incredible against Mel Costa, right? We picked Arnold Allen to win that fight by 50-45, and I'm pretty sure that's what the score ended up being. Arnold Allen is so good. You have to be truly elite and the next big thing in this division, and you got to be as elite as it gets in order to beat Allen. Because his ground game is good, his takedown defense is there, he's got great output, a really good gas tank, he is explosive to where he does have some sneaky power, but he's super technical. And I think that he's got more tools to a degree on the feet than Aaron Pico, but Aaron Pico's boxing is nasty. And Aaron Pico's biggest weakness is his chin. Outside of that, Aaron Pico to me is an elite fighter in this weight class. We saw him beat the brakes off of Pitbull, would have loved to have seen him finish there, but destroyed him. Right, and Aaron Pico looked really good against Lerone Murphy until he got clipped with the spinning elbow. Got overzealous UFC debut. Maybe that was a factor there, but early lean, I'm kind of in the direction of Arnold Allen by a decision. I just think that his ability, man, the kicks, if he could get the Muay Thai going, he was getting the march going, bouncing the lead leg, frustrate Pico with some of those teeps, keep him at range, bang him with some kicks from the outside, utilize that footwork, not be a sitting duck to where Pico can let those body combos fly because Pico does a great job of going to the body, man, and I like Aaron Pico. I'm a big fan of his, right? His boxing is nasty. His wrestling is really good. I don't think he's going to be able to keep Arnold Allen down. I think Allen can work back to the feet. And on the feet, Pico's got the power advantage for sure, and his boxing is much better. But Allen's boxing is still solid. His footwork is good, and I think his kicking game can give Pico some problems. So I lean in the direction of Arnold Allen. These are early picks, by the way, right? So Kavanaugh, I think he can end up knocking out Tamirov. Volkov by decision, Arnold Allen by a decision, Dom Reyes versus Azamat Murzakanov. I know Murzakanov is coming off of a fight where he got beat up by Paulo Costa, but Costa's in the prime of his career. He's found his actual weight class at 205, and Murzakanov was a destroyer before that, right? A step-in power jab, knocked out Rakic. Destroying guys in this weight class, and now it's kind of, well, how does Murzakanov bounce back? Because we've seen he's explosive, but he slows down. We saw that in the Costa fight, but it was that open stance game to where Costa's kicks were just destroying Murzakanov. To where in this fight against Reyes is a southpaw. right? And Reyes is one of those guys where if you overextend, he snipes you with the left hand or just kind of lets the high kick go. That's Dom's game at this point. And we know that Reyes is very, very chinny. And he's been around for a while, and he's coming off of an underwhelming fight against Walker where both guys were afraid to pull the trigger. So early lean, I think Mirzakhanov is able to catch him. I think he's able to catch him, but I think someone could get knocked out. Or we get a boring back and forth. Both guys are afraid to engage, but I'm going to lean in the direction early of Azamat by a KO. Abus Magomedov, Cam Ralston. I mean, Abus Magomedov literally looks like a top 5 middleweight for about, 4 or 5 minutes, and then that's it. And then his gas tank goes out the window, and then he loses. Ralston's looked very impressive to where, we've seen him get clipped here and there, right? He's looked a little underwhelming in moments, right? Coming out of CKB, the hype is there. His striking is good. His defense on the feet, though, I think is suspect. He's a good striker, but Abus is so dangerous early, man, and his ground game is really good. We saw what Abus just did to Michał Oleksiejczuk. So my early lean, I do think Ralston can avoid the early danger of Magomedov, maybe weather a storm and end up putting it on him in that second and third round. But we know how Abus is, man. In that first round, he's about as dangerous as it gets in the weight class. Nikita Krylov, Abdul Rahman, Yakeyev. Abdul Rahman is going to knock out Krylov in the first round and probably within the first couple minutes. And I know Krylov kind of went, for a while there with Whitaker, but Whitaker was banging him up with some shots. Abdul Rahman is not Robert Whitaker in terms of the overall skill and obviously the resume that Whitaker has, but what Abdul Rahman just did to Walker was insane, man. Knocking him out with one shot. And Yakeyev can grapple, too. I think he's better anywhere the fight goes. Obviously, a big step up in competition. This is the big opportunity that Abdul's been waiting for. He's too fast, too accurate. I think he catches Krylov in the first round. And Krylov's chin, it's just not there anymore, man. It's not there. And then coming off of a loss to Whitaker to where you got finished, Abdul Rahman's faster than Whitaker and hits way harder, in my opinion. So Abdul Rahman, round 1 knockout. Grant Dawson, Nurullo Aliev. I can't stand Nurullo Aliev's game, man. This guy on the feet is sloppy. Really no finishing instinct. Presses forward. Just looks to wrestle the whole time. Whole guy's down on the ground. And, I mean, it works and he wins, right? But on the feet, I mean, there's not much danger whatsoever. But the weird thing is Grant Dawson's got, no chin. So I could definitely see a scenario to where Nurullo Aliev clips him, is able to sting him up. And this is a big fight for Aliev. He's coming off of a dominant win over Mike Davis, who I think is a better striker than Dawson. But Dawson has really good grappling. Very good grappling. Good submission skills as well. To where he could potentially match Aliev in that realm. And then we get a kickboxing fight. To where I feel like Dawson has more power, but Aliev has more output. So early lean, I do think Aliev will be able to do enough. Will be able to put a pace on Dawson and win a decision. But I'll be pulling for Grant Dawson in this one. And I think Dawson's very capable of getting that one done. So those are my early predictions for, basically the card. But let's talk about the main and co-main event. My early prediction for this is, and I don't see myself really changing my mind on this because I've thought about this fight ever since Volkanovski beat Diego Lopez in the rematch. I think Volk is going to beat the brakes off of Evloev, man. And I like Movsar Evloev. I'm a big fan of this guy. I think he's a fun fighter to watch. Well, I shouldn't say a big fan. I am a fan of his work. I think he's a very skilled fighter. He's a guy that kind of gets a lot of shit, and I don't really understand why, because a lot of his fights have actually been pretty entertaining. The Aljamain Sterling, one of the most entertaining grappling MMA fights of all time, right? The fight against Arnold Allen was crazy. When he fought Diego Lopez, that was crazy. The Lerone Murphy fight, I mean, he didn't even grapple. And it was pretty clear to me that it was basically you need to be entertaining and strike in this fight to get a title shot. That's what it felt like to me, because Evloev barely grappled, and even when he did, he kind of let Murphy up. And that was the path of least resistance. But the reality is if Islam Makhachev is not able to keep Volkanovski down, what makes you think that Movsar Evloev is going to be able to do that? I mean, Islam Makhachev to me is way better of a fighter than Evloev. And I know that Evloev's got the nice record, and a lot of these fights, man, have been really, really close. A lot of them have. A lot of these fights have been close. And Volkanovski, I understand, I think he's 37. I think he's going to be 38 when this fight happens. Volkanovski at one point was fighting all the time, right? The era of him, Usman, Adesanya, these guys, it felt like they were fighting every other month. Volkanovski, in my opinion, is a top 5 fighter of all time. And I know that he's a little bit older. So there is that concern of, well, does the gas tank start to fade if a pace gets pushed? How's the chin going to hold up? There are those questions. Outside of that, I don't see how Evloev beats this guy. I don't think Evloev's holding Volkanovski down, no shot. Is he going to outstrike Volkanovski on volume? Possibly, right? We saw that Evloev striking looked really good against Lerone Murphy, but I've been saying that Volkanovski would destroy Lerone Murphy. Volkanovski, man, he's the best striker this weight class has ever seen. in terms of the footwork, the feints, the movement. I mean, obviously, Ilia, Topuria, and McGregor, the most dangerous when it comes to knocking people out, basically. But, you got Holloway up there, like what Volkanovski was able to do to Holloway. Beat him 3 times. Second fight close. First one, Volk won. Third one, clearly won. And he went in there with, Diego Lopez for 50 minutes and survived. Diego Lopez, I get it. Evloev has a win over him. I think Diego beats Evloev in a rematch. And Diego Lopez is more dangerous than Evloev. The reality is, sure, Evloev could go out here and show us something we haven't seen and end up knocking out Volk, which would be absolutely crazy. And the way MMA is now, it wouldn't shock me if something crazy like that happened. Volkanovski's a much better striker. His takedown defense is as elite as it gets. He's got that lower center of gravity. He's very, very, very strong. And he's a better striker. And I think he hits harder than Evloev. So what is it that Movsar is going to do? I mean, he's going to take him down. He's not going to be able to keep Volk down. Volk will pop right back up to the feet. Volk will start to pressure him, get the feints going, tag him with the jab, start to throw the right hand, start to let his combinations go. We'll beat up the legs of Evloev. I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe Volk has kind of lost a step at this point, and Evloev could just walk him down, put the volume on him, take some shots to give a couple, and kind of just drown Volk with a pace. But, I mean, to go in there for 50 minutes and stay safe from... I know Diego landed some shots here and there. Diego Lopez is a dangerous submission game. He's one of those guys where he can knock you out on the feet. He's got power in everything he does and has a nasty sub game. Evloev doesn't. And Evloev does have a little bit of underrated sting on the feet, and his striking is a lot better than what people give him credit for. But to trouble Volk, and I know you could say, well, the takedown threat, Islam Makhachev, the second fight, it was short notice for Volk, man. He was clearly out of shape. The first fight on a full camp, and I know that that's prime Volk. You could say he's not in his prime anymore, but he's still dang good, and I still think he's better than basically everybody in this weight class at this point in time. The only things that make me nervous for Volk at this point are devastating power hitters, like a John Silva, Kevin Vallejos, someone like that, like a Diego Lopez, right? When Ilia was in the weight class, which is why I was like, Ilia's going to knock him out, is because if you have that devastating power, you can find a way to get to Volkanovski. But I don't think Evloev has that power. I don't think he's going to hold down Volk. I think Volk will scramble, start to work the body, attack the legs, set up his combinations. I think we see Volkanovski convincingly beat Movsar Evloev and defend his belt and further cement himself as the greatest featherweight of all time. And I've been saying, I think he's a top 5 fighter of all time. Alexander Volkanovski is that skilled. And look, ever since, getting KO'd by Islam, KO'd by Ilia, he's been, rather inactive at this point, fighting once a year, which I think at this point in his career, the amount of times that he's fought, the experience, some of the damage, I feel like this is a smart move. It allows Volk to prepare. And by the way, training with Mauricio Rufy, obviously making Rufy better, but also making Volk better, to where I feel like we're going to see some new wrinkles in the striking of Alexander Volkanovski. The way he cuts angles, the way he shifts, the way he moves. Volkanovski, to me, I think he's a very tough puzzle for Movsar Evloev. I wouldn't be surprised if Evloev wins because Evloev is a great fighter, but I just think stylistically, this is actually a really good matchup for Volkanovski to go out here, stop the takedowns, keep it on the feet, and just bang up Evloev and be a step ahead in the striking and win a convincing decision over the course of 25. Volk Masterclass. Loading. I can smell what the Volk man is cooking, and he's going to be cooking Movsar Evloev in this fight and make it look pretty easy, I think. Co-main event, Petr Yan, Merab Dvalishvili. It's going to be bad, Merab. It's going to be bad, Dvalishvili. Listen, Petr Yan is going to beat the brakes off of Merab in this trilogy, and not only that, I think he finishes him this time. Merab Dvalishvili doesn't have anything for Yan coming into this fight this time around. Petr has figured him out. And a lot of the time when you hear a fighter say, well, I had this injury or I had this in the first fight, we hear that a lot of time whenever they get dominated, especially, and it's kind of like, is that real? Is it cope? What is it? Well, I think it was pretty clear that something was definitely wrong, in my opinion, with Yan in the first fight, because in the rematch, I didn't think it was that close. The commentary was making it kind of sound close. Yan beat the brakes off of him, man. Was out wrestling Merab. And then Merab's like, oh, I wanted to be entertaining. No, you just couldn't take him down, couldn't control him because your control sucks, and you couldn't take him down. Petr Yan, skill for skill, is one of the greatest fighters of all time. He is a far superior striker compared to Merab. I think he's a better grappler at this point than Merab. What does Merab do better than him, other than push an insane pace and fight like a madman in there? And listen, I respect what Merab brings to the table. Wanting to fight all the time, willing to fight anybody for the most part. You got to respect it, but I think Yan hasn't figured out. And I know that Merab was trying to be active, and I'm sure that was wearing on his body. So I do think Merab will look better than he did in that fight, but I think Yan will look better than he did in the second fight. Because Jan's biggest thing is just don't get tired and you'll win. Because he's a way better striker than Merab, and I think Jan should go to the body early and often, a lot earlier than what he did in the second fight. Once Petr started to go to the body as the fight started to play out, man, he started to run away with it. He was throwing those kicks. It sounded like a baseball bat smacking off somebody's, midsection, man. It was like whack, right? Those kicks that Jan throws, right? He throws the left hand and the left kick follows. He throws the same punch, same side kick as he's throwing the punch, which is kind of not unorthodox, but it's a tricky little thing that he likes to do. And he was catching Merab with that over and over and over again. And Jan was doing a great job fighting behind the jab, basically only jabbing early to where Merab started to try to counter, where Merab's actually gotten better on the feet. He was landing some good right hands, but then Jan started to open up, started to get the timing, and we've seen Jan get off to faster starts. We saw that in the last fight. And I think with the time away, I feel like both guys are going to come in motivated for this, but I think Petr Yan has this guy figured out, man. Has him figured out. Jan will work the body over and over and over again. That is the weakness of Merab. That will drain his energy, slow him down. Jan will batter him with the jab, mix in the kicks as well, out-grapple him in moments, and I think he goes to the body and ends up finishing a very tough and durable and game Merab Dvalishvili. I think Merab is in trouble in this fight, man. I think it's going to be bad. That's my take on this. I think Petr Yan is just that good. He's in the prime of his career. I think Merab, I know he hit kind of that late, surge per se, and he's been on a tear, but I don't know. I feel like that activity kind of caught up to him in a way, and it's just the fact that Jan is that good. And when Jan actually pushes the pace earlier instead of just waiting, he becomes that much more dangerous. I think he destroys Merab in the trilogy. And Merab should have gotten this, trilogy, man. All the work that he's put in. This is the fight to make. Close out this story here. I think Jan's better than him at everything. And I think he has Merab figured out, right? As long as Jan doesn't get tired, work the body of Dvalishvili, mix in the boxing. Jan's one of the best strikers we've ever seen in the UFC. One of the most skilled guys of all time. I think he dominates Merab in the trilogy, makes it look easy, and gets a late TKO stoppage via going to the body. I think he melts Merab. Last but not least, this Apex banger going down September 26th in the Meta Apex. Look, it's crazy that this is a main event, in my opinion, but I stopped kind of judging the Apex cards so harsh because they usually end up being very entertaining. The smaller octagon, right? I like the Apex thing. I think it's cool. The atmosphere, the close quarters environment. I dig it. And this stylistically is a good matchup. It's just kind of crazy that this is a main event, but this is what the UFC's been doing. They take a young up-and-coming fighter. It's just now a little bit different because Rosas is actually the higher-ranked guy here. But they've been taking the young buck and giving him to a crafty vet. And normally it's the young buck trying to take the spot of the crafty vet, where this is Barcelos basically trying to, take away some of the hype of Rosas and keep climbing. And to me, I thought that Barcelos deserved a bigger fight than this in terms of a higher-ranked opponent. But Rosas is a big name. And Rosas, I think, is only 21 years of age, which is crazy. He's growing up before our eyes in the UFC. And to a degree, I like the inactivity of Rosas. And you might say, well, why do you like the inactivity? Because he's so young, he's just going to continuously get better and better and better and grow into this weight class. He's going to grow into his frame. His striking has gotten better from fight to fight. And I know, went out there, it was boring against Rob Font, and it was basically a wrestling match. I get that. And he's not going to be able to do that, in my opinion, to Raoni Barcelos. I think Barcelos might pull off the upset here. But with it being 25 minutes, Raul being the younger fighter, I do think Rosas' striking has gotten a lot better. I do think his grappling is very, very good to where he can compete with Barcelos in that area. I don't know that he out-grapples Barcelos, though. Barcelos is a very high-level grappler. We saw what he did to Montel Jackson. And Barcelos has been a crafty underdog pick for me, man, time in and time out. And he's been going out there and getting the job done. And his striking is good, and I think he's got more power than Raul. But Raoni is a little bit older. And I know that it hasn't really affected him. He's looked good, but we've seen him clipped in some of these fights. And as long as Rosas doesn't get tired, I think he wins this fight. I think he's a little sharper on the feet. He'll have more output, a little bit more dynamic. You'll see the youth on display, and his grappling is really good. And I think that he could have some success in that realm. But we've seen Barcelos. He's a very high-level grappler himself on the feet. He's got some power. We saw what he was able to do against Ricky Simon, who's a good grappler. He was able to easily outstrike him. Barcelos, what he did to Peyton Talbot, how well that win is aged, right? So we know what Barcelos can do, man. You put him in there, he's one of the craftiest vets in the UFC that we've ever had. Seriously. Barcelos is one of those guys where he's like a dog, and then he comes in and he finds ways to get it done. But over the course of 25, being a little bit older, if Raul can set a pace and not get tired, I feel like that could be a problem for Barcelos in the later rounds. So I'm going to say that Rosas wins a competitive decision here. I think Barcelos has a lot of success. Regardless of who wins, I think it's competitive. I think that this is a fun stylistic matchup. Both guys are good grapplers. They're okay on the feet. Barcelos more power. Rosas a little bit more accurate, a little bit sharper, a little bit more technical. I like this fight. But being a main event, I feel like is a little bit of crazy work in my opinion. But I think Raul should be able to get this one done. And again, happy for Barcelos because while I thought he should have gotten a top 10 guy, he gets a guy with a ton of hype and a big name in this division. So I don't know. I got to watch some more tape on this one because I could definitely see the crafty vet Barcelos pulling this one off. But I like I like Raul. I hope he can get it done. So that's my thoughts. Jan, it's going to be bad, Merab. Volk Masterclass. I can smell what Volk is cooking, and this card is absolutely loaded. I'm really looking forward to the UFC 333. But if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you next time.